This is the Goal Talk Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of the Goal Talk Podcast. I wanted to jump in quickly and check in. Most of the episodes that you've listened to so far in the series were pre-recorded before COVID-19 essentially shut everything down. So I just wanted to jump in and make that quick note. Today's interview is with Kim Castings,
Who is our senior customer marketing specialist here at WordStream.
So please note again, this was recorded before we felt the majority of the impacts of COVID-19. So take these insights as, general marketing insights outside of COVID. Also, please note next episode is going to be a COVID-19 related post. So it's going to be sitting down with our resident PPC expert, Mark Irvin, and we're going to talk through how marketers have felt the impacts, what search trends look like, industries that have felt the impacts on their search marketing efforts the most, and then some strategies to kind of alter your accounts. So stay tuned for next week's episode, but please enjoy today's episode with Kim Castings.
Welcome, Kim. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And I love that you're in the office. So Kim works remote out of Atlanta. So it's great that she was up here this week, and we could do this in person because originally we were planning on doing like a little Skype situation. So this makes it much easier.
Way better.
I want to start off by hearing a little bit more about your background in customer marketing, kind of what you've kind of done in the past, and then what you've done here at WordStream, how long you've been here, stuff like that.
Perfect. So I've been at WordStream a little over 2 years now. And my background, I think, set me up pretty nicely for being both at WordStream and then being on the customer marketing and product marketing team here. So right out of college, I had a couple of different jobs at software companies where I was doing customer success, account management type of work. So that really helped me get into the nitty gritty of working with people, having empathy for people in different situations, training, onboarding, all of that fun stuff. After those type of roles, I moved into a 3D printing company as their marketing manager.
Cool.
So yeah, it was really cool technology. I never thought I would work in that space. But then I was able to come in, and they had never had a marketing person before, and start running that for them. We're a really small company, only 7 employees.
Oh, wow.
So I think that helped me transition to WordStream really well, because here we're all about empowering small and mid-sized businesses. And having done marketing for one of those in the past, I feel like I'm really able to put myself in the shoes of our customers, and all of that really nicely, rather than just being so enterprise, which is a whole different set of challenges to itself. But really having worked in the small business space helps me here.
Yeah. I didn't even know that you worked for a small business, and,
Yeah.
not to mention a 3D printing company. That's so cool.
Yeah.
What did you guys, what was the main thing that you printed?
Yeah, so we were actually selling the printers. So we would work with lots of different types of companies, usually R&D departments for, we worked with aerospace companies. We worked with, just regular product companies like Rubbermaid, Tupperware. I got to go see a lot of cool things in action. We worked with a company that made car seats. So we actually got to go in and watch them test out one of their 3D printed prototypes in the actual crash lab with the test dummies. So yeah, working with lots of different industries all over the place. But yeah, we were selling the printers. So we had a demo room in Atlanta in our office where we would kind of flip the sales model of, field sales, where people traditionally will take a set of 3D printed parts into the office of a company and say, hey, don't you want to buy this $500,000 machine? Whereas we kind of flipped that and brought people in to see the printers in action. So there was zero guesswork when they left, and let them know exactly how they'd be able to use the technology, print their parts. So it was a really eye-opening time.
Yeah.
It's one of those technologies I feel like people hear about in the news all the time.
Yeah.
It's it's going to change the world, and it'll definitely get there, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah. I feel like the only background that I have with 3D printing is from Grey's Anatomy and creating 3D printed medical equipment, and I don't know. They created a bunch of stuff there, and I think it was all a little bit far-fetched, but that's super cool.
Yeah, we got to work with a surgeon who would create 3D printed models of patients' hearts so he could go in and practice before the surgery.
Super cool.
Yeah. So we weren't doing like biomedical printing, but they were using it for prototypes before surgeries to make it go smoother.
That's really cool. And that was in Atlanta.
Yes.
And then you moved up to Boston and started at WordStream?
Yes.
Sweet. So did you I feel like Boston's such a bit of a shock, at least weather-wise from Atlanta. Did you find that?
Oh, for sure. I love it because it's so walkable here. Like Atlanta is not as walkable of a city, but the weather was definitely a shock. I always say that I thought I had a winter coat until I moved here, and I was like, oh, okay, I did not actually have a winter coat.
It's like a fleece.
Yeah, it's like not equipped to deal with that, but adjusted to it pretty well. But had to move back to Atlanta. I had a baby last year, so wanted to be closer to the family and everything. But Boston's a great city, and
yeah, totally understandable.
Miss it.
Well, it's amazing to have you here in office. So I think I'd like to start with the basics, and just kind of understand to you what customer marketing entails, and what that really looks like in a variety of different company types, and how companies can just look at approaching customer marketing.
Yeah. So I think if you would ask most people what they think of when they think of marketing, they're going to think about prospect marketing, like getting new customers in the door. And that was the way things were for a long time. And only fairly recently have people started thinking about this on a bigger scale of, okay, once I have my customers in the door, what do I do with them now? Do I just let them sit there? And people started to realize it's really important to keep your current customers engaged. Not only just to keep them happy, it's the right thing to do, but also it's so much, less expensive to keep your current customers than it is to go and acquire new customers. So it's kind of all wrapped up into one, like keeping your customers happy, keeping them informed. You might unlock cross-sell or upsell opportunities, or even referrals. So much of your business can come from happy customers. So for me, it's kind of keeping a balance of all of that, making the customer first in everything you do. And we really try to do that at WordStream.
Sweet. I think that there's, especially in the marketing landscape right now, there's a big notion of people and companies saying that they're customer-led or customer-inspired, when they might not actually, take it into consideration as much as maybe they should. And, not throwing shade at anybody, but I think that there's, it's such a trend right now that a lot of people are saying that. But what does it mean? Like, what actions can companies take to be really, truly customer inspired and keep the customer at the heart of their marketing efforts and their entire organization's core values?
Yeah. So I definitely agree that is a huge issue across a lot of different companies, and I think people intend well, but maybe don't take the full steps to get this customer-led approach really integrated throughout the entire company. I think a lot of companies will just say, yeah, we're customer-inspired, and maybe they review survey results. We survey our customers 2 times a year to make sure they're still happy. We're customer-inspired, and not really the extent of what a lot of companies should be doing to keep the customer at heart. And there have been survey after survey showing that if you do actually take a full customer-inspired approach, your business will be more profitable, employees will be more engaged. So I think it goes beyond just surveying. I think it goes into building, if you have a product, like a software product, building the customer needs and desires, the pain points you can help them solve into your actual product roadmap. It goes into, obviously, sales and support are on the phone with customers and potential customers all the time. So I think they typically have a good understanding, but it still goes beyond that into, persona mapping. What are the pain points of these people? What are the things you can really come in and help them with that might go beyond just the daily transactional conversations they have with those folks? So I think figuring out additional pain points that they might not have thought of, or any other information you can give those departments will help, even into finance and operations. I think if everybody can keep empathy for the customers top of mind, everybody's going to be working towards the same goals, kind of like a quick gut check, is what I'm working on really going to make an impact for our customers at the end of the day? And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. I think that that's a really good point on the gut check portion of it, especially within marketing, but also within, support roles and sales roles, even product development roles, just making sure that we're regularly checking in to make sure what we're working on, what we're spending our days on is actually going to help and impact the customer. Really goes to the heart of being, customer focused and customer inspired. So a lot of what you talked about was for, people that might be in our space, either like a subscription model or a software as a service company or a SaaS company. I wonder what it might look like for, maybe small retailers or brands or people that are resellers, or for, smaller companies that are, just trying to broach, visits. We have a customer in North Carolina that, is a travel, what's the word for it? Like a hospitality group type thing. So I wonder if you can lend some insight into what that might look like in different industries.
Yeah. So a lot of it comes down to, smaller companies you're not going to have like a whole customer marketing department or anything like that. But there are still small steps you can take to kind of start this process and keeping customers top of mind. So the first thing is just talking to your customers. So maybe you're, talk to them when you're selling the product, or maybe it's all online. It depends on the industry. But I think the biggest thing is talking to your customers, not just surveys like we've already mentioned, calling them up on the phone, bringing them in for an event or hosting an event in different cities. So again, this is all different depending on the industry and the budget that you're working with. But I think even just simple phone calls and getting more data from your customers that way, you'd be surprised the number of people that if you reach out to them, telling them what you're trying to accomplish, that you're trying to make your product or company better by talking to them. Like most people are usually pretty open to that.
And if they're not, they'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly. And then on to the next one. So I think even things like that will make a big difference for smaller companies a lot of times. I think about, at my last company, the 3D printing company, we were very... not a startup feel, but since it was a small company, we had to get creative with things. We didn't have the huge budget to throw at things like a lot of larger companies. So I think it's all about having empathy for people, figuring out creative different ways to maybe get that feedback. So like I said, we had our demo center in Atlanta. We would bring customers into that, using that as an opportunity to like show them the printers, but also getting feedback from them that way. So I think, just taking small steps at first. If you're a small company, you don't have to even go in and do a whole persona mapping project. I think that'd be good, for people to keep in mind for future things. But even if you can't get to that point yet, start with something small, get some feedback. Make sure you're using like a CRM to track things on your customers. You can add in notes, make sure, the next time you go in and talk to them, you have like reference for things that might have happened in their lives that you can really just kind of show that you care about them. You're going the extra mile and really do care about their success, with your company, but just in general.
So I have a couple of thoughts there. First thing is I worked in restaurants for years, still do. And I just can't shake it. It's something that I love. So I worked at a high-end steakhouse for 5 years. And one thing that they were super, super big on is maintaining the relationship. And it seems like a lot of that is kind of what we're going back to and what we're kind of dancing around is maintaining a significant relationship with your customers and those that are taking their time to spend their money with you, or spend their time with you. So in this example, I worked at a high-end steakhouse, and what we would do is at the end of the night, we would ask people to just kind of give us their information. And if we didn't already have it, and we would write handwritten thank you notes to our customers. And as a restaurant, you're not, you go in to dine at a steakhouse, you're not expecting to get a thank you note from your server. So that was just kind of like one interesting way that, at the end of the night, our last step of service was writing out our thank you notes. And then we would go do our cash out or whatever. But I thought that was a really, really cool thing. They also really encouraged us to if we learned something, we did have a customer relationship management software. So every time that diner came in, we had notes on them. And what we would do is we were encouraged to kind of write down things that, we talked about or that we learned about them during that visit. So if we learned that they liked a certain type of wine, or their son just got married, or they just took a trip to Barcelona, we could write that down so that the next time they came in, their server was like, oh, Tom, how's your son doing? I heard he just got married. And that makes them feel way more welcome and, frankly, much more likely to come back. Yeah. Which I think is a really cool thing. But talking about, maintaining the relationship and finding ways to just kind of create relationships with people, I think that there are a lot of really creative ways that small businesses can approach that. I think about, electricians or plumbers in small towns, people that work in HVAC or lawn care. They probably have repeat customers, right? Like somebody generally, if you're a homeowner, would have a person that they'd go to for electrical or for plumbing or things like that. So I think maintaining an open relationship, and, maybe that looks like sending a Christmas card or, stopping by and checking in every once in a while, or, sponsoring a mixer or something like that would, in a small community, really go that mile and show your customers or people that have already done business with you that you care.
Yeah, that's so true. I think there are really, from your first point, a lot of great takeaways you can get from the hospitality industry where it's high impact touch points that really don't cost that much. Like think about direct mail. Like in the olden days, you used to, okay, great, another letter. Like, let me throw that away. And now, I mean, it's the opposite. If I get a piece of mail, I'm like, oh, somebody sent me a letter. Like something like that. It's so cheap to mail, so cheap to do.
Yeah.
And people are actually going to notice it. We even did a little bit of that at my last company, even for like prospecting. We would send handwritten letters just to try to get in the door at places. So I think that's a great point. And even into like local businesses, it made me think of the place where my husband bought my engagement ring, 8 years ago. We haven't even been back there, but still every year we do get a holiday card from them. And
which is great.
Yeah. And it's, I keep them top of mind. I probably would have forgotten about it. But guess what? If we ever do need to purchase anything like that, like we would think about them first.
Right.
My old company, we did a holiday card as well. Just something to kind of make them feel like they were part of the family.
Yeah, so absolutely. And it can feel like a lot, but there are such good resources out there that are free that allow you to just kind of like input an Excel spreadsheet, create your design, and it'll change out the dear whatever and the address. And like you said, snail mail is cheap, but it makes, such an impact on people. I had a guest come back after I sent them a thank you note, and she literally got up and hugged me. And for us, that was just kind of something that we did that we didn't really think about because we did it every day. Whereas for her, she went and got a piece of steak for dinner with her husband, and then 4 days later got a thank you note from her server. It's just kind of like a very, very different way to approach customer marketing. And if I were to ask executives at that company if they thought that was part of their customer marketing mix, I don't think that they would even put it in that category. I think they would just say it's another thing that we do. So it's interesting to think about the different ways that we can approach it. Do you have any, really good examples when you are looking for inspiration as our customer marketer of companies that really, really do customer marketing well or customer engagement well?
Yeah. So a few examples come to mind. I'll narrow down. A few months ago when I was putting together a presentation looking at how to revamp our customer spotlight program, where we take a different customer every month and we talk about them at our large company meeting. We do a blog post about them, really kind of showing the human side to our customers and not just like, oh, well, they increased their, CPA or lowered their CPA by X amount, like focusing on the stats. It's more of the human side of their story. So I was looking at ways to revamp that. And I came across Help Scout's website. and they are a customer service type of software. So I think they actually do a great job with their customer success story type of setup on their website. They have a mix of, blog posts, case studies, videos, which is huge, and something we're still looking to grow here at WordStream, our video portion of our customer stories. But I think they are a really great example. And again, I think a lot of it is because they're, dealing with customer support software. So I think you can tell that they are putting their customers' needs into the forefront of everything they do. And I think it's really powerful when you go on their website. If you just see a company talking about how great they are, like, yeah, that's fine. But are you really going to believe it versus seeing all of these different companies across all these different industries that have, different success stories, and maybe you'll see one that resonates with you. It's kind of like trying to pick where you want to go for dinner. Are you going to just walk by somewhere and, okay, well, that place looks okay. Or are you going to look online or ask friends for recommendations? I mean, I think most people would lean towards those options of finding somebody who's, been there, can give it a good recommendation. It's the same kind of thing with customer stories.
Yeah. And I think in our day and age, like especially with the prominence of search engines and just the apps that we have at our fingertips, I think you would be hard pressed to find someone who's looking to go out to dinner and will just say, let's just walk around until we find something.
The only place you can do that is in the North End here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you're
Italian
making a decision to eat Italian and delicious Italian because everywhere's so good.
And I think also real quick on the B2C side, I was thinking about Airbnb, how you're looking for a place to stay, and that's great. But now they have the Airbnb experiences where they're highlighting different things to do. They're thinking past just where you're staying into making sure you have culturally relevant, fun experiences that you can do while you're in that location. So that was another one that came to mind. I think they do a good job thinking through the full experience and what people are really looking for when they book a trip.
I think they also do a really good job with their follow-up process in terms of, I love the fact that not only do you review your host, but the host also reviews you as a renter. You're going into their home or their second home or their space. And I think that it's important that, their customers aren't just the people that are looking to book. So I think that they do a really good job of understanding both sides of it and understanding the needs of both sides, both their hosts and their renters, and providing the tools necessary to make both of them successful in what they're looking for. So really good example there. We've talked through some things. I'd love to hear how WordStream approaches customer marketing, some of the different things that we do to support our customers. Again, WordStream specifically is a, B2B focused software that helps advertisers, agencies, small businesses, medium-sized businesses optimize and be more efficient with their Google and Facebook and Microsoft advertising campaigns. So along that light, I'd love to hear how you or WordStream in general approaches customer marketing.
Yeah. So I think for us, we do align a lot of things with our personas. So we have 4 different persona types, and every time I'm writing a newsletter, coming up with a webinar idea, like I'm thinking about which personas those impact and trying to even write accordingly. And having worked here for a couple of years now and met so many of our great customers, I feel like I'm able to kind of empathize with them more and determine. I try to pare it down to, okay, what's the most important information they need to see here? I know we're dealing with really busy business owners a lot of times who, okay, they don't want this huge fluffy paragraph about a new feature we released. Like they want the facts, the details, and framing it that way. So I think empathy comes into it a lot of times. And again, once you start having those conversations with your customers and understanding, their preferred method of communication, kind of even the stresses of their everyday life in addition to their job, you're kind of able to put yourself in their mindset and think about things accordingly. So I think on a higher level, there's definitely that perspective. And then into some of the tasks, we're working on things like monthly newsletters for our customers, product release updates on our support site. in-app messaging. So we try to put messages in our product when a new feature comes out that people need to be aware of. So it's kind of a whole mix of different activities that you're trying to do while thinking of this bigger message of, okay, what's most important for our customers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it also translates, I'm working with the customers, but I'm also kind of a liaison between customer success, sales, everyone else internally. Like I mentioned, the company meetings, I think even like making sure everybody in your organization is aware of different customers of yours, the things that they're going through, whether that be like, okay, if you're having a team meeting and mentioning a different customer every time and something, challenges that they face and how your company has helped them out of that. Little things like that will go a long way as well, even just internally customer marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned a few ways that we do customer marketing here. A couple that I know about that you didn't mention, we have our WordStream HQ, which has a bunch of like help articles, kind of like a big resource for customers, because there's so much to know in the space. It can get really taxing. So we have a whole like help center basically. And then I'd love for you to talk about the 2 events that you put on twice a year, each of them. Yeah. Tell me about what those are.
Yes, the Great Shout on HQ. We launched that last year. There is, as any of our customers can tell you, so much information to know about the world of paid search and paid social. So that's between that and then our new Growth Academy courses.
Right.
Those are geared towards lots of different people, but I think our customers can get a lot of value out of that as well. There's just so much information that you have to get up to speed with when you start paid search and paid social. For our events, this is another great way. Again, for some small customers, you might not be at this point yet, but I think it's something to work towards. And a lot of companies have different versions of these type of events. So what they are 2 events, and like Michaela mentioned, we have 2 per year. Our Customer Insight Roundtable and WordStream Live. So WordStream Live is our kind of big customer event. All of our customers are invited to this twice a year. We'll typically host them at like a Google office, which is really cool to be able to go see different Google offices across the country.
And to give our customers the opportunity to go to a Google. Yeah.
How cool is that?
Awesome.
So that happens twice a year. And that, like I said, we invite all of our customers to that. It's really for knowledge sharing. We have different people internally who will give keynote presentations and talks throughout the day on different advertising topics that our customers need to be aware of, since there are always so many things changing in the world of online advertising. And then just it can be so confusing, especially when you're first starting out. So those are really fun days. We do that twice a year.
And it's a cool opportunity for our customers to meet each other, share pain points, talk to other small business. Talk to other small businesses, make those connections. I think it makes the WordStream community a little bit more strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a few like diehard WordStream Live fans who are at every single one. Yes. Shout out to Bob Ong if you're watching this. We all love you. But it's just a great way for our customers and all of our employees who are able to attend. We have people from, our product team, our customer success team, our sales team, our executive team, like everybody's there. And it's a great way for them to get to know our customers. Like I mentioned earlier in the session, talking about getting feedback from your customers. And that's a really great way that we can do that while also helping our customers and give them some learning that they might not have picked up on otherwise. So those are great. We also do our customer roundtable event, which is kind of like our version of a customer advisory board. But that one we take about 12 customers each time. So it is a select group that we will choose and invite based on different criteria of whatever feedback we might be looking for that time. But that one's really special. We actually fly them out to our office here in Boston. So we have people visiting from all over the country, and even we've had people from the UK before. It's a great way to get a smaller pool of customers together. We bring them in and we do a few sessions, knowledge sharing sessions with them throughout the day. We've done speed networking session where we bring WordStream employees down and give everybody like 5 minutes to talk to each other and kind of switch. So that's really fun and a great way for, again, like our customers are coming in and getting to talk to, maybe our head of product and, people that they wouldn't generally get to talk to. They love their CS reps, but it's just, expanding them out to even more people in the company. And on the flip side, people who normally might not have been able to talk to our customers are getting that real feedback on our side for our employees as well. We do lots of different things throughout the day that are really fun. Work on like product road mapping, or if we're working on something, we might get their feedback on it throughout the day. And we everything culminates with our customer panel at the end of the day, where our entire company comes down and we put our poor 12 customers at the front of the room and do a big Q&A session with them, which everybody always starts out nervous, but ends up being everybody's favorite part of the day because our employees love hearing from them. We ask them, pain points that they have, favorite parts of the software, just so many different topics. And then our customers end up loving it because they're actually getting to share their stories with everybody. And they really can see at that point that we all genuinely care about what they're talking about and what they're experiencing.
Yeah, which I think is just such an awesome event. Both of those I think are super helpful for customers, helpful for WordStream employees too. I've been to both of those events, and I think that it's just the things that our customers and WordStream employees get out of them can't be replaced. It's face-to-face time with customers. It's one-on-one interactions. It's getting, a lot of time I think we have an idea of what, might be our customers' pain points or might be, our driving factor in what a problem we're trying to solve. But those might just also be our constructs. And if we're all working on the same thing, thinking about the same thing in the same way, we're not really challenging ourselves. So I think going to the customer and hearing it directly from them is a really, really good resource.
Yeah, you can't assume you just know
Exactly.
what your customers need.
Yeah. And I think personas, you talked a lot about personas. We did talk to Eric Manser about creating personas and how those can be used throughout the marketing process. Holly touched on that as well. But I do think that you can use personas as much as you can, but you can't just assume everything fits in with that persona and then take everything from there. So I think that these interactions are super, super valuable for everyone involved. So love to hear about those. I'd like to kind of take it back a little bit. We've talked a good amount about, different tactics. What do you think is the most effective way for small to medium-sized businesses to keep in touch with their customer base? We've talked about doing direct mail. We've talked about, hosting a mixer or sponsoring a mixer, a community event. If there's a way for people to regularly keep in touch, what do you think is the best way for people to approach that?
Yeah. So it is tough. And if anybody ever finds the 100% solution to all of this, please let me know because it's something nobody has cracked yet. So I would normally say email, it's, free or cheap to use depending on which email client you're using. Or if you're just sending like a quick individual note.
Right.
So that's like usually the go-to, but it is hard because even with great email open rates, you're only hitting 30 to 35% of people opening those, and those are good rates a lot of times. So I think, it's not just one thing, it's kind of multiple things in conjunction together. So I think like for us, we use email, we use the in-app messaging that I talked about. We use the product updates on our HQ or support page. So it's kind of touching people on every single place that they might be. So I think between that and even just, depending on your company size, if there's an update where you can, like at my last company, the owner used to just get on the phone and call, people with certain things if we weren't getting a response in email or trying to notify them of things. Like I think don't underestimate the power of just picking up the phone and calling.
Yeah.
And I know it gets frustrating. Like if you get people's voicemail a lot of times, like people this day and age, I feel like just don't want to answer the phone. I mean, I'm a millennial. I'm included in that a lot of times, but I think it's kind of trying to reach people everywhere that you can. Phone calls, emails, events like you mentioned, or even just dropping in. If you are a local business, maybe not a B2C, you don't want to stop at somebody's house, but if you're like a local B2B company, even and you have a good relationship with people, like dropping in, leaving that, handwritten note or mailing them a letter, like any of these touch points and kind of everything working together will hopefully give you that success. But there's not going to be just one size fits all or one solution that works.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I think kind of, again, going back to maintaining a relationship, relationships don't just happen, via texting someone. So like me and my best friend don't just text each other all day and that's it. So I think that, creating a valuable relationship where both parties get something out of it comes with communicating in a bunch of different forms. So that's face-to-face interaction, that's mail, that's, text-based. So like email. I think another really big thing for small businesses or local businesses is creating a sense of community. Sponsoring like little league teams or, getting your name out there, whether that's, in a paper or, doing something that just kind of establishes you as part of the community, someone that really cares. Even if you're not directly interacting with customers, even if you're directly interacting with the community, those people are more likely to trust you, more likely to recognize your name when they see it or when they're then in need for a service, then become your customers. And then that relationship's even stronger because you've had more of a basis in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I also think, something we haven't mentioned yet is social media. And I think in this day and age, I might be a little biased because I, do a lot of social and community. That's literally my title. But I do think in terms of keeping in touch with your customers, if you can, create and maintain a Instagram account or a Facebook account for your like local business, even a Twitter account, and it's such a good way to immediately update people with things that are going on. Facebook and Instagram stories for more visual aspects, text-based on Twitter or LinkedIn, video on LinkedIn. I think that there are just so many different opportunities for keeping in touch with people. People can literally just DM or message you if they have a question. You can then engage with things that they're doing if you're following them. I think it's just a really good way of also fostering that community that might not be as physical. Nobody has a ton of time.
Yeah.
So.
And like we mentioned earlier, like especially if you're at a company like my last one, we were, didn't really have a huge budget to work with. If you're strapped for cash, like one of the first things I did was come in and create a Twitter account for them.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, since we were B2B, like that's a huge one.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Even Facebook for B2B, huge.
And even as simple as, if you're not blogging yet, starting a blog, like I would do at least one blog a week there, focusing on like I mentioned at the beginning of this, like we had so many great customer applications. So as simple as getting approval from people to like write your own customer stories about them, put it on the blog, share it out on social. That way you can, get that out to a wider audience, but you can also have that content to use if you were to do your own customer newsletter every month.
Yeah.
Like things like that sound daunting, I think sometimes for a small business, and they're going to take some time and effort, but I think the payoff is definitely worth it.
Such an impact. Yeah. And it'll really show for those looking into your company or your product or service. That's what will drive the person over the edge to purchase. If you have those resources, those testimonials or case studies, those things that show that, you're not just trying to push a sale, you're trying to help people solve a problem with whatever you're selling, I think is just huge.
Just gives you that extra credibility too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think also a lot of this we've talked about, customer relationship management softwares or CRMs. What do you think are important data points for small businesses to be collecting about their customers that will help them be more successful in their customer marketing efforts?
Yeah. So a lot of the things that we like to ask are, what are your desired outcomes with using WordStream? We try to get a feel for people's experience level a lot of times. So I think if there are, it's again going to be different by industry, but I think if there are insights like that you can kind of pick out okay, if you were going to send people an email, like what are some of the targeting criteria you think you could segment out to make things more impactful for people? So I think those are some of the big ones. You could even ask, I haven't tried this, but one that comes to mind, like their preferred method of communication. Like maybe people do like, just call me, just email me, whatever
I've
it might
seen that
be.
before as a customer.
Yeah.
In signing up for things or like purchasing things online, they'll have like check boxes and say, call me or email me or mail me, and you can put in whatever address you want. I think that's super helpful, and it, really tailors to how people want to be communicated with. In what you're talking about with data points, I think that that's such a good point in, looking for whatever product or service or offer that you are, trying to supply. I think just kind of thinking through in what ways, what type of people, again, going back to the personas, are looking for your offer. But also within those personas, like specifics about who they are will go a long way, because once you understand those things, again, segmenting, like you said, but even further than that, just, communication style, understanding what pain points they might come up against. So as you're developing your product or developing your offer, you can really get that feedback and kind of come into it prepared. I do want to also talk through some examples that we've seen of maybe like bad customer marketing or examples where it's gone too far. For me, I'm a weird millennial. I like to buy things online, but like not really. I think buying things in store feels like more low lift to me than buying things online, because buying things online, I don't know, I have to wait for it, and then I have to like be super certain it's not tangible. I don't know. I'm a weird millennial like that. But I do find that when I do buy things online, or if I buy things in store and I'm on their mailing list, a lot of their customer marketing looks like, hi, here's 10% off your next order. Buy again. Or, hi, we got more stuff. Buy again. It's like all kind of aimed around continuing a sale, and less around, hey, how are you liking that product? Hey, other people that bought that product, noticed this, or we'd love to see pictures of how you're styling that piece, if it's, more of a retail type thing. I just wonder if you have other examples of, when it could go bad or when it could go a little too far. I mean, like the classic example of the bombarded inbox with last chance, 20% off, ends Friday. And there's 85 of those from the last week from the same company. I mean, that's too much.
Yeah. Without naming any names, I think that is probably like the most relatable example is over spamming people.
Yeah.
And again, like even in the examples you just mentioned, all of that is coming from the desired outcome of the company. Like I get it, you're sending an email to try to get more sales, but at least include something in it for the customer.
Yeah.
So I would say anything that's either over communicated, like again, try to think back to the least amount of information you have to send a lot of times. Certain industries, maybe it's good to fluff it up more or include more. But I'm very much a proponent of, again, thinking about your customer, what's going to be the most important thing for them, what's the email cadence that they would want to receive, or at least giving them options to pare it down a bit. So that's definitely probably the most common example of it.
Yeah.
I also have seen, again, without naming names of companies, there was one software I was using here at WordStream, and I would rarely get emails from them, but then they ended up getting acquired by another company. And now it's like a product that I don't even use. They kind of opted me into all of their emails and kind of just made it seem like, okay, we're going to assume that you want this. And it's like not anything related to the original software. So I think, again, just trying to keep it relevant for what people are looking for and not overdoing it.
Yeah. I have a similar story that just made me think of. I have there's a certain social platform that we use very regularly. I've been at WordStream for, coming up on 2 years here. And in my time here, I had not heard from them directly at all. I mean, it's a social platform, so not like you would expect to get an email from them. But I got an email recently saying, "Hey, Michaela, just wanted to touch base. Hope you're well. Your customer success rep is actually changing, so I just wanted to intro you." And I didn't know that we had never a relationship with this platform, never mind a customer success rep, never mind what a customer success rep would do for us on the organic side. So I thought that was like an interesting, I didn't think that there was an issue, but once I got that email, I was like, well, maybe they're not doing awesome because it's been so long and I haven't even known that this has existed, type thing. So that's also a funny example of that. We've talked a lot. As we wrap up, I always like to ask for like one final takeaway or one big piece of advice that you can give the small business listening to this, just trying to get their feet wet and understand why customer marketing is important. If you could just kind of boil it all down to one major takeaway for this podcast episode, what would it be?
My main takeaway would be have empathy, and flip things. It's just natural to think about things from our own perspective. We need to be thinking about things from the perspective of those we're selling to or those we're serving. Even as simple as, on your website, like we've mentioned before, are you going to just sit there and say great things about your company, or what would a potential customer want to see out of that? I'm thinking what would a potential customer or customer want to see throughout every interaction, and having that empathy for them will really transform the way that companies do things on an enterprise level, all the way down to our SMBs who we know and love at WordStream.
Awesome. That's really, really valuable advice. Thank you so much, Kim. It was great conversation and loved having you here. Stay tuned for next week, and also make sure that you are following us on Twitter at Gold Talk Podcast. Join the conversation there. We'll be kind of tweeting out new episodes, but we'd love to kind of keep the conversation going. If you have any questions, it's a great place to pop them in and, talk with those on the episode directly. So we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much. Have a great week.